At the front of a discount store, a man is being escorted out while still arguing that the display mannequin looked at him first. That is the world of store removals, where tiny rules meet giant confidence, and the receipt printer becomes a witness. Why do ordinary aisles keep turning into courtroom exhibits over coupons, carts, samples, and imaginary customer rights? The file starts silly, then widens into a national museum of retail overconfidence. 1. At a grocery entrance, the cart wheels lock because someone tried to push it past the parking lot boundary. Instead of accepting the small orange warning sign, the customer lifts the entire cart like a stolen treasure chest and marches toward traffic. The manager follows the cart screams mechanically, and the man gets banned while holding 2 melons and a loyalty card. 2. The free sample table becomes a buffet the moment one shopper decides sample means lunch plan. She circles the cracker tray 4 times, changes sunglasses once, and claims she is a different customer now. The employee stops refilling the tray. The line goes quiet, and the woman gets asked to leave with cheese dust still on her sleeve. 3. Inside an electronics store, a teenager tests every Bluetooth speaker at full volume using the same 8-second rap intro. Other customers start comparing headphones just to survive. When an employee asks him to stop, he announces that he is checking bass quality for the public. The public does not request representation, and security escorts him out mid-chorus. 4. By the frozen food aisle, 2 adults argue over the last discounted lasagna like it is a custody dispute. One grabs the box, the other grabs the cart, and both insist they saw it first. The lasagna bends, the coupon falls off, and the manager solves the case by removing everyone except the pasta. 5. The dressing room mirror becomes a film studio when a shopper starts recording loud outfit reviews for strangers online. She blocks 3 stalls, demands natural retail lighting, and asks an employee to hold her purse like unpaid crew. When she says the store is ruining her brand, the store protects its own brand and sends the production outside. 6. Because the receipt looks official, one customer believes it can be used as a legal document against the cashier. He reads each line aloud, objects to the bag fee, and demands a corporate judge. The register line grows behind him like a silent jury. The verdict arrives quickly. Refund offered, drama denied, exit required. 7. At a pet supply store, a man brings in a giant parrot that already knows one phrase. "This place is a scam." The bird repeats it near the premium food shelf while customers stare. The owner insists the parrot has consumer instincts. The manager decides those instincts can continue in the parking lot. 8. When the sign says, "No shoes, no shirt, no service," one barefoot shopper argues that socks are basically emotional shoes. He walks through the pharmacy aisle in bright blue socks, pointing at the floor like it signed a waiver. The employee offers a simple choice. The socks leave first, followed by the theory. 9. 3 friends in a furniture store discover the recliners and confuse try before you buy with group nap. One removes his shoes, one sets a phone alarm, and one asks where the blankets are. A family trying to buy a couch watches a full sleepover form in public. The store ends the showroom vacation immediately. 10. The return counter goes still when a customer tries to bring back a half-eaten birthday cake. He explains that the vibe changed after serving it. The employee points to the missing corner, the frosting fingerprints, and the plastic fork still in the box. The refund request collapses under its own sprinkles. 11. Nobody expects the candle aisle to become a scent laboratory. But one shopper opens 20 jars and starts ranking them out loud, like a national emergency. She mixes lavender, pumpkin, pine, and vanilla until the aisle smells like a confused holiday. When she complains about a headache, the employee simply gestures toward the exit. 12. At a sporting goods store, a customer tests a fishing rod by casting across the camping section. The lure clips a hanging lantern, taps a backpack, and lands in a display tent. He calls it realistic testing conditions. The staff call it the end of the demonstration, and the tent keeps the evidence. 13. During a holiday rush, someone decides the self-checkout machine is personally disrespecting him. He argues with the voice prompt, scans bananas as miscellaneous hardware, and accuses the screen of having an attitude. When he asks to speak to the machine's supervisor, a human supervisor appears and removes both the bananas and the performance. 14. The perfume counter becomes dangerous only to everyone's patience when a shopper sprays sample bottles like she is fumigating the building. Customers cough politely, employees blink through citrus fog, and one man retreats behind a sunglasses rack. She says she is finding her aura. The aura is escorted outside before it reaches housewares. 15. In a bookstore, a man brings his own chair, thermos, and sandwich, then uses the travel section as a rent-free office. He tells staff he is supporting literacy through presents. After 4 hours and 0 purchases, mustard appears on a guidebook to Italy. The store removes the sandwich scholar with surprising calm. 16. If a store offers buy one, get one, someone will eventually try to make the free item the expensive one. At a shoe store, a customer insists the $180 pair should be free because he found it second, emotionally. The cashier refuses the emotional accounting, and the math debate ends at the door. 17. The toy aisle becomes a racetrack when 2 grown adults test remote control cars at ankle height. One car hits a cereal display, another spins under a stroller, and both drivers blame signal interference. The signal was fine. The judgment was not. Management cancels the race before the action figures need insurance. 18. At a home improvement store, a shopper opens a box of tiles to inspect the spiritual pattern. Then he opens another, then another, building a small ceramic avalanche in aisle 12. When told to stop, he says creativity cannot be boxed. The staff agree and move his creativity outdoors. 19. Because the coupon expired yesterday, one customer decides time itself is negotiable. She asks the cashier to honor the spirit of Tuesday while standing there on Wednesday afternoon. The register refuses, the manager refuses, and the calendar remains undefeated. She exits, still promising to call corporate about the structure of days. 20. In a warehouse club, the giant cart becomes a scooter when a shopper puts one foot on the lower rail and pushes off like a bored pirate. He rolls past bulk paper towels, nearly clips a freezer, and laughs until the employee catches up. The membership survives. His indoor transportation privileges do not. 21. The makeup tester shelf turns into a full makeover station when a customer arrives with nothing on and leaves looking ready for a banquet. She uses 8 products, 2 brushes, and a mirror she moved from another aisle. The employee explains that testing is not the same as preparing for an event. The event relocates outside. 22. At a convenience store, a man tries to pay for gas with a lottery ticket he has not scratched yet. He calls it potential money. The clerk calls it paper. After 10 minutes of economic philosophy, the man scratches the ticket, wins nothing, and loses access to the argument venue. 23. Every summer, someone treats the produce misting system like a spa feature. In one supermarket, a shopper leans over the lettuce during the spray cycle, closes her eyes, and says it is good for the skin. The lettuce gets refreshed. The customer gets redirected. The cucumber section has never looked more uncomfortable. 24. The shoe aisle becomes a barefoot negotiation room when a customer tries on sneakers and walks toward the exit wearing them. He claims he is testing long-distance comfort. The employee explains that long-distance testing begins after purchase. The man returns in socks, which makes the whole demonstration less convincing. 25. At the craft store, glitter is the substance that turns minor misbehavior into permanent evidence. One customer opens several tubes to compare sparkle density, then sneezes directly into the display. The aisle shines, the cart shines, the employee's black shirt shines, and the shopper is removed like a walking holiday hazard. By now, the pattern is not theft or rage. It is something smaller and stranger, people entering stores and deciding the building exists to validate their personal theory of reality. 26. In the meat department, a customer presses every steak package like he is interviewing them for character. When the butcher asks him to stop, he says he can hear tenderness. The plastic wrap dents the line, backs up, and the store decides the steaks deserve quieter leadership. 27. At a phone store, one man demands a refund because his screen protector failed emotionally after he dropped the phone on concrete. The employee points to the cracked corner, the parking lot footage, and the concept of gravity. He keeps arguing that premium protection should include life choices. The conversation gets disconnected in person. 28. When a store posts employees only, the words become a challenge to certain customers. A shopper walks into the stockroom looking for better cereal options, then acts offended when boxes, ladders, and staff members appear instead of secret bargains. The manager escorts him back to the public world where cereal already lives. 29. The flower section turns theatrical when a customer starts rearranging bouquets by romantic tension. She pulls roses from one bucket, lilies from another, and creates a leaking masterpiece on the floor. When told she must buy the damaged stems, she says art should be free. The puddle disagrees. 30. At a thrift store, a shopper puts on a donated jacket, finds $5 in the pocket, and announces that the jacket has paid for itself. The cashier explains that hidden cash is not a coupon. The shopper argues with the jacket still on. Both the jacket and the philosophy are removed from circulation. 31. In an office supply store, a man tests pens by writing full complaint letters on the sample pad. He dates them, signs them, and asks where to mail the one about aggressive pricing. Ink is meant to be tested, not used for correspondence. The employee retires the pad and the author. 32. Because the store has a price match policy, one customer pulls up a blurry photo of a cheaper blender from a website that may sell boat parts. The cashier cannot verify the model, the brand, or possibly the planet. The customer calls this discrimination against savings. The blender remains full price and silent. 33. At a jewelry counter, someone tries on a ring and then refuses to remove it because it feels chosen. Employees offer lotion patience and increasingly firm smiles. The ring finally comes off after several minutes of public finger drama. The customer leaves without the ring, but with a powerful new relationship to soap. 34. The snack aisle becomes a crime scene of crumbs when a shopper opens chips before paying and calls it pre-checkout snacking. He says he always pays eventually. The cashier asks why 3 empty bags are under the cart. Eventually, in this case, was a very flexible word with barbecue flavor. 35. In a craft market inside a store, a customer starts haggling with a cashier over fixed-price soap. She explains that negotiation is part of culture. The cashier explains that barcode scanners are not street bazaars. After asking for the soap supervisor, she is guided away from both lavender and commerce. 36. At a hardware store, a customer tests a leaf blower indoors. Dust lifts from the floor. Receipts scatter, and one small display of garden gloves collapses like it lost morale. He shouts over the motor that he needed to check wind personality. The store confirms the personality and removes the meteorological customer. 37. When the bakery offers custom messages, one shopper tries to make the employee write a 43-word apology on a 6-inch cake. The icing bag pauses. The employee explains physical space, letter size, and frosting limits. The customer says love has no limits. The cake visibly does. 38. The customer service desk becomes a courtroom when a man returns a fan because it made the air too circular. He demonstrates by spinning his finger in the air. The employee waits, then asks whether the fan was defective. He says no, just philosophically aggressive. The fan is accepted. The man is not invited to continue. 39. In a clothing store, a customer removes a mannequin's pants to check the fit. Not a spare pair from the rack, the mannequin's pants. Employees freeze shoppers' turn, and the customer says the mannequin looked about his size. The mannequin loses dignity briefly. The customer loses shopping access immediately. 40. At a dollar store, 2 people start comparing balloons by inflating them manually in the aisle. One squeaks, one pops, and one lands on a display of reading glasses. They claim they were checking quality. The store points to the pump, the packaging, and the basic concept of not breathing into merchandise. 41. The deli counter line slows when a customer requests 1 slice of ham, then another, slightly more confident slice, then a third, with better energy. The slicer is precise, but not psychic. After 10 minutes, the employee wraps the smallest possible order, while the manager wraps up the customer's visit. 42. In a big box store, a shopper rides the motorized cart while standing on it like a parade float. The cart beeps, wobbles, and blocks a family from reaching toothpaste. When staff intervene, he says he is testing accessibility for everyone. Everyone else appears to disagree from a safe distance. 43. At a music store, someone tries a drum kit with the seriousness of a stadium encore. The first beat is tolerable. The second becomes a solo. By minute 4, 3 customers have left, and one guitar teacher is staring at the ceiling. The drummer gets one final cymbal crash, then the exit. 44. Because a sign says fresh coffee, one customer demands to see the pot's birth certificate. He wants proof it was brewed within the reasonable emotional window. The clerk shows the timestamp. He disputes the clock. The coffee cools while he argues, proving exactly why the store cannot host him. 45. At a garden center, a shopper waters plants with his own sports drink because he believes electrolytes help everything. The leaves get sticky, ants arrive, and an employee explains that plants are not marathon runners. He says nature should be open-minded. Nature continues attracting insects while he is walked out. 46. The clearance aisle becomes a strategy room when one customer hides discounted candles behind toilet paper so she can return later. An employee watches the entire operation from 10 feet away. When confronted, she calls it layaway without paperwork. The store calls it unpaid inventory hide and seek, then ends the game. 47. In an upscale grocery store, someone samples olives by spitting pits directly into a napkin display. He claims the container was too far away spiritually. The employee replaces the napkins, removes the olives, and stares at him with the calm of a person choosing not to say 12 things. 48. At a party supply store, 2 adults put on inflatable costumes and begin bumping into aisles for laughs. One dinosaur knocks over paper plates. One sumo suit blocks the balloon counter. They call it brand engagement. The manager calls it unpaid destruction with a zipper, and the costumes deflate outside. 49. The pharmacy line gets strange when a customer asks the cashier to diagnose his plant. He places a drooping fern beside the card reader and demands something over the counter. The cashier explains that the pharmacy is for humans. The fern remains unwell, and its owner is discharged from the store. 50. During a rainy afternoon, a shopper uses a display umbrella, walks around the store under it, then refuses to buy it because it is now used. The employee points out who used it. The customer says that is beside the point. The point drips steadily onto the floor until everyone understands. The file has moved from silly to procedural. The stores are not just removing customers. They are defending the fragile border between service and whatever the customer invented on the drive over. We have seen a cart dragged toward freedom, a parrot doing negative Yelp reviews, a cake asked to absorb a whole apology, and a fern seeking pharmacy help. The second half gets stranger, because the behavior stops looking random and starts looking like a confidence system with fluorescent lighting. 51. At a warehouse store, someone opens a bulk package of socks to buy only one pair. He explains that nobody needs 12 commitments. The employee explains that the package is the product. He offers to pay 1/12 of the price. Retail math has limits, and so does the aisle. 52. In a home decor store, a customer lights a display candle to see the full ambiance. The flame is small, but the panic is immediate because displays are not designed to become tiny campfires. She says ambience cannot be judged cold. The store chooses safety over mood and sends her outside. 53. When the sign says, "Do not climb," a shopper at a furniture store climbs the bunk bed ladder anyway to test adult upper bunk dignity. The frame creaks, a child points, and an employee asks him to come down slowly. His dignity survives less well than the bunk bed. 54. At a grocery self-checkout, one customer scans a grape, weighs it alone, and tries to buy just that grape. He says he is watching his budget. The machine cannot process the philosophy. The employee offers the produce scale a bag or the door. The grape remains the smallest witness. 55. The paint aisle becomes a debate stage when a customer opens cans to compare colors under real oxygen. The lids pile up, the samples thicken, and one can tips slightly onto the floor. Paint color changes with lighting, not customer impatience. The manager closes both the cans and the conversation. 56. At a beauty store, a shopper returns used hair extensions because they did not match her vacation energy. The employee notices sand hairspray and 3 days of beach evidence. The shopper says the product failed in photographs. The store rejects the return, and the vacation energy walks out with a receipt-shaped problem. 57. In a comic book shop, two customers argue over whether a sealed collectible should be opened for truth. One starts peeling the corner, while the owner moves with historic speed. The plastic wrap is not packaging anymore. It is value. The truth remains sealed, and the philosophers are removed. 58. Because the store radio plays one song twice, a customer demands compensation for emotional repetition. He says he came in for toothpaste, not trauma. The cashier explains that playlist control is not local. He asks for the music department. The music department, like his discount, does not exist. 59. At a kitchenware store, someone tests a non-stick pan by cracking an egg into it. No stove, no purchase. Just raw egg sliding across a demonstration surface while staff stare in disbelief. He says the pan passed. The store says the man failed, and the egg becomes a closing argument. 60. The photo center turns tense when a customer tries to print professional-looking ID photos of his dog for official emotional support paperwork. The employee explains the rules for documents and image formats. He says the dog looks very responsible. The dog does. The paperwork does not, and both leave unprocessed. 61. At a shoe store, a shopper asks for a discount because the sneakers will touch the ground eventually. The employee confirms that shoes often do that. The customer acts as if he has uncovered a depreciation scandal. The sneakers stay on the shelf, untouched by asphalt and negotiation. 62. In a supermarket, a customer tries to return a watermelon because it did not sound expensive enough when tapped at home. He demonstrates 3 knocks on the customer service counter. Nobody knows what luxury fruit should sound like. The refund is denied, and the watermelon leaves with unresolved acoustics. 63. When a clothing rack says final sale, one shopper reads it as final, unless I am persuasive. She returns with the shirt, a dramatic story, and a belief that policy softens under eye contact. The cashier remains kind and immovable. The shirt's journey ends where the sign predicted. 64. At a hobby store, a customer opens model airplane boxes to check wing destiny. Tiny plastic pieces scatter onto the floor, like evidence from a very boring crash site. The employee explains that sealed kits need to remain sealed. The customer insists true hobbyists understand. True hobbyists nearby look offended. 65. The checkout lane becomes a hostage situation for everyone's schedule when a coupon app refuses to load. Instead of stepping aside, the customer lifts his phone toward the ceiling, like he is contacting satellites by force. The line ages visibly. The manager removes the transaction and the tower of patience behind it. 66. In a grocery store, a shopper places a rotisserie chicken in the magazine rack while comparing prices. 20 minutes later, the chicken is found cooling beside celebrity gossip. Hot food has a time window for safety, and gossip is not refrigeration. The customer is asked to leave before misplacing soup. 67. At an outdoor store, someone crawls into a display tent, zips it shut, and says he needs to test emotional weather resistance. His friend knocks from outside. A child asks if the man lives there now. The employee unzips the situation and confirms that indoor camping requires an exit plan. 68. Because the sign says limit 2 per customer, one shopper tries to introduce her left hand and right hand as separate customers. She places 2 items in each hand and waits like the register might respect anatomy. The cashier does not. The hands leave together, which feels legally correct. 69. In a bakery, a customer asks for a discount because the bread is older than when I entered. Technically, everything is. The employee does not build a pricing model around the passage of minutes. The loaf remains bread. The clock remains cruel. And the customer is invited to continue aging elsewhere. 70. At a toy store, a grown man presses every talking doll button at once until the aisle becomes a tiny haunted committee. Parents pause, children laugh, and the dolls repeat 6 catchphrases over each other. He says he is comparing voice clarity. The store chooses silence by removing the tester. 71. The garden hose display becomes interactive when a customer connects one to a sink in a hardware store. Water snakes across the floor before anyone understands the plan. He says he needed to check pressure. Pressure, unlike judgment, proves extremely real. The mop arrives after the customer has already been sent out. 72. At a bookstore, a shopper tears out a crossword page from a magazine because she only wants the useful part. The cashier explains that magazines are sold whole. She offers to pay for 1 page. The arithmetic is bold, the evidence is torn, and the subscription to public shopping ends immediately. 73. When the store offers free assembly, one customer interprets it as a lifetime furniture repair service. He brings in a chair from another brand, another year, and possibly another decade. The employee cannot fix it. The man says customer care is dead. The chair, from the sound it makes, is closer. 74. In a clothing store, a customer uses the emergency exit because it is closer to the parking lot. The alarm turns one lazy shortcut into a public announcement. Everyone looks up. The customer tries to pretend the door opened emotionally. The siren continues, explaining the policy louder than any employee could. 75. At a grocery store, a shopper refuses to let the cashier scan items because barcodes steal freshness. He insists on reading each product name aloud while the line freezes behind him. The scanner waits like a patient little robot. Eventually, the groceries remain fresh, but his shopping trip expires. This is where the file gets darker without getting louder. The dumb reasons are funny, but the structure is revealing. Tiny authority, tiny rule, huge objection. Instant personal constitution. 76. Inside a department store, a customer moves sale signs from one rack to another, then acts amazed by the new discount. Employees watch from the folding table as the scam performs itself badly. She calls it a misunderstanding. The sign still has the original rack's metal clip attached, which understands perfectly. 77. At a supermarket seafood counter, someone asks if the salmon can be less fishy before buying it. The employee offers another product. The customer demands the same fish with a different personality. Fish smell comes from fish, especially at the fish counter. The conversation sinks, and so does his invitation to stay. 78. The electronics return desk receives a television with no box, no remote, and a Super Bowl sticker on the back. The customer says it was only used for evaluation. The employee understands exactly what got evaluated. The return fails, and the temporary home theater plan loses its final quarter. 79. In a bookstore cafe, someone brings outside food, uses the store's napkins, and complains that the cafe menu is overpriced. The employee points to the sandwich wrapper from another restaurant. The customer says he is creating competition. The store removes the competition before it expands into dessert. 80. At a clothing outlet, a shopper asks to buy only one sleeve from a jacket because the other sleeve feels unnecessary. The cashier searches his face for a joke and finds none. Clothing is designed as a unit. Even when confidence arrives in pieces, the jacket remains whole. The visit does not. 81. Because a toy says batteries not included, one customer opens another toy to steal its batteries and calls it in-store balancing. The employee catches him mid-transfer. He explains that both products belong to the same company. They do not. But even if they did, the screwdriver still looks guilty. 82. At a grocery store, a shopper peels stickers off organic apples and places them onto regular apples, then acts surprised by the accusation. He says labels are just suggestions. At the register, suggestions become pricing systems. The apples return to their proper identities, and the philosopher exits without fruit. 83. In a hardware store, one customer uses a tape measure from the shelf, bends it, drops it, and puts it back because he is done with it. The employee asks him to pay for the damaged tool. He says tools are meant to work. They are also meant to be purchased before retirement. 84. At a pet store, a shopper opens a bag of dog treats and feeds them to dogs that are not his. He says he is building community. The owners look alarmed, the employee looks faster, and the dogs look thrilled in a legally useless way. Community service ends at the automatic doors. 85. The grocery scale becomes a casino when a customer weighs a bag of mixed candy, removes the expensive pieces, and keeps the cheaper label. The cashier notices the suspicious candy migration. He says the bag changed its mind. The store changes his location from checkout to sidewalk. 86. At an appliance store, a customer climbs inside a display refrigerator to check spaciousness. The door does not close fully, but the image closes the case. Employees tell him to step out. He says serious buyers test everything. Serious buyers rarely pose next to yogurt shelves they do not own. 87. The store policy binder appears only after a customer asks to see the law about not eating grapes before purchase. The manager explains store rules, product weight, and basic ownership. The customer says grapes are nature's samples. Nature, unfortunately, does not run the register. 88. At a pharmacy, someone tries to return sunscreen because it allowed clouds. The employee asks whether it failed on skin. The customer says the weather ruined the beach trip, so the sunscreen was part of the disappointment. The refund request expands until even the clouds seem embarrassed. 89. In a discount store, a shopper brings a ladder from the hardware aisle to reach decorations hanging from the ceiling. The decorations are display only. The ladder is also not hers. For one brave minute, retail becomes unauthorized construction. Then an employee restores gravity policy and common sense. 90. At a clothing store, one customer swaps price tags in front of a security camera, so visible it might as well wave. When confronted, she says cameras make people assume the worst. The worst is still dangling from the cheaper blouse. The exit feels less like punishment than editing. After 90 exhibits, the reason for removal is almost never mysterious. Someone mistook access for ownership, service for obedience, or a store policy for the opening round of a debate tournament. 91. The final stretch begins at a supermarket checkout where a customer refuses to unload his cart because cashiers need exercise. The cashier stands still. The line stands still. The customer waits for the store to accept his wellness program. Instead, management cancels the workout and escorts the trainer out. 92. At a department store, a shopper tries to reserve a display couch by putting her coat on it and leaving for lunch. 90 minutes later, another family sits down. She returns furious, as if furniture obeys coat-based property law. The store rejects the claim, and the couch remains publicly available. 93. In a craft store, someone opens a hot glue gun package, plugs it into a wall, and repairs her purse near the yarn aisle. The glue strings stretch across the shelf like evidence. She says she was testing performance. The store says performance ended the moment her purse became the project. 94. At a grocery store, a customer argues that broken eggs should be cheaper after he breaks them himself. The carton drips onto the counter while he explains depreciation. The cashier understands depreciation. She also understands sequence. The eggs are no longer sellable, and neither is his logic. 95. The mall kiosk becomes a border dispute when a shopper yells at one store's employee about another store's return policy. The employee has never worked there, never sold the item, and cannot refund it. The customer insists the mall is one place. The mall surprisingly contains boundaries. 96. At a home goods store, a shopper removes a pillow from its plastic cover, lies down on the floor, and announces she needs 5 minutes to judge neck support. Other customers step around her like a fallen display. The pillow may be comfortable, but the store is not a bedroom with receipts. 97. In an electronics store, a customer changes the wallpaper on every demo tablet to a photo of his own face. He calls it brand awareness. The employee changes them back while he explains follower growth. The tablets return to factory calm. The personal brand exits through automatic doors. 98. At a grocery store, someone uses the intercom phone to ask whether anyone has seen his wife. The whole store hears a dramatic description, including her coat height and impatience level. She appears from aisle 9 furious and fully visible. The reunion is brief. The removal is quieter than the announcement. 99. In a luxury store, a customer demands champagne because she saw someone get it online. The employee explains appointments, events, and the fact that she is buying one keychain on clearance. She calls it unequal treatment. The store offers water. She refuses hydration and is removed with dry dignity. 100. At a discount grocery, a man complains that the generic cereal mascot looks too smug. He wants the box replaced, then discounted, then formally apologized for. The cashier studies the cartoon tiger and sees no legal exposure. The mascot keeps smiling from the shelf as the customer is guided out. 101. The last case is a customer who brings his own out-of-order sign and places it on a checkout lane so nobody else will use it while he shops. He calls it planning. The cashier calls it fake infrastructure. The line reopens, the sign is confiscated, and the planner becomes the final thing removed. The closing image is simple: a sliding glass door, a confused customer outside it, and an employee inside calmly peeling a homemade sign off the counter. Stores are not sacred institutions, but they do reveal something useful. Give people bright lights, public rules, and a small inconvenience, and some will invent an entire government where they are president. What is the dumbest store removal you have ever seen or heard about? Drop it in the comments, because this file is clearly still open.